Senator Bob Corker questioning President Trump's fitness for office. Former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon responding tonight, calling for the senator to resign. Here to discuss what Senator Corker says about the president to CNN senior economic analyst Robert Reich, also the author of Saving Capitalism for the Many, Not the Few, and Stephen Moore, former senior economic advisor to the Trump campaign. Gentlemen, thank you so much. This is a very important conversation. Mr. Reich, I'm going to start with you. The New York Times asked Senator Bob Corker directly whether he thought President Trump was fit for office. He wouldn't answer directly, but here's what he said. Watch this.
I don't think he's a warmonger, but I don't think he appreciates that when the President of the United States speaks and says the things that he does, the impact that it has around the world, especially in the region that he's addressing. And so, yeah, I mean, it's concerning to me.
So do you believe the President is fit for office?
No. But, Don, I'm not a senator. I don't have any say at all in this. I think the significant thing about Senator Corker's comments, not only is he a senior Republican, but he also represents the views of many other senior Republicans. The President of the United States has gone after Republican leadership. He's gone after not only Corker, but he's gone after Jeff Flake. He's gone after Mitch McConnell and John McCain and others. And this is a president who's gone after them not on policy grounds. I mean, this is not about a principled difference. These are differences based upon the president's sense that he has been offended. It's a kind of a mean, petty, vindictive outpouring of sentiment on the part of our president that's not only politically stupid, but also worrisome, because this is a man who has his finger on the nuclear button. I mean, 4.5 minutes after he says go, the world or part of the world could be annihilated. And that's worrying. That's worrying to Corker. It's worrying to Rex Tillerson, who may or may not, he didn't deny calling the president a moron. Not literally a moron, obviously, but somebody who is quite disturbed and quite unhinged. And it's the atmosphere in Washington, and I know many of these people, I worked with them across the aisle, many Republicans are deeply worried about the mental competence of our president.
Yeah. Stephen, I want to bring you into this, but before I let you speak, I want to play more of Corker from the New York Times, so we'll have a better discussion. Here it is.
I do worry that he's, sometimes I feel like he's on a reality show of some kind, you know, when he's talking about these big foreign policy issues. And, he doesn't realize that, that we could be heading towards World War III with the kind of comments that he's making.
And Stephen, here's what Steve Bannon said tonight about Senator Corker. Watch this.
If Bob Corker has any honor, any decency, he should resign immediately. He should not let those words stand to what he said about the President of the United States.
So, reality show according to Corker, and then Bannon saying Corker should resign. What do you think?
Well, it's a tough one. Look, I thought what Corker said was inappropriate for a United States senator to say that about the President of the United States. I know Bob Corker. I consider him a friend. I was sort of shocked by those comments, actually, Don. I mean, you don't say that about the president. And, I mean, even to say he's not fit for office, I mean, certainly the voters wouldn't have voted him in if they didn't think he was fit for office. I think, look, Donald Trump is a disruptor of everything in Washington. And that's one of the reasons he was elected, is people were sick of the way Washington was being run. Donald Trump also has a problem right now, Don, with Republican senators. The Republican senators did not stand and deliver for him on Obamacare repeal, something that virtually all Republicans were elected to deliver. And I think he was angry about that, as I think a lot of voters are. And now he's got this big tax cut that is the other big element of his economic agenda. And you've got people like Bob Corker who are backing off from that.
Can I ask you something? Why can't a senator question whether the president is fit for office or not? Why not?
Well, because obviously Donald Trump is fit for office. I mean, the fact is he was elected. If the American people didn't think he was fit for office, they wouldn't have elected him. Now, you
We're
could have
not
asked
talk-
me
no,
that
no, no,
about
no, 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 no.
Stephen Moore, that is-
I mean,
No,
guys,
no, hold on,
no.
Stephen.
No,
We're
no,
not
no,
talking
no.
about
Let me
what
just
the
make one
American
point.
people.
No,
hold on,
on.
Stephen.
I didn't.
We're not talking about what the
look.
American people think. We're talking about a sitting senator who's questioning whether this president's actions are appropriate, whether it's fit for the office of the presidency, whether he's conducting himself in a manner that is becoming to the office of the presidency. This has nothing to do with what the American people voted for.
Well, and I'm with Bannon. I think
Because people question
what Bob
Richard
Corker
Nixon's
said about
fitness
the
for
president
office
was
appropriately.
inappropriate. By the way,
John, may I-
Robert
may I
Reich,
just-
I didn't. No, let me just say one last thing.
No,
and then-
go ahead.
I
Let
didn't
Stephen
think
finish.
that Barack Obama. I didn't think Barack Obama was qualified to be president. I don't think he did a very good job as president. But I wouldn't have said that. I would have never said he's not fit for office. I just think that's denigrating of the office of president.
No, I think it honors
Hold
the
on,
office of
and you
president.
had there was another point you were going to make, Stephen. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to ask you that. But there were people who questioned President Obama's fitness for office, and they also said that they were going to make him a one-term president. They didn't think he was qualified as well. Why is that appropriate for him, but not appropriate for this president?
I don't think I don't think it's appropriate once someone is elected for president to say they're not fit for office. And you're right. Barack Obama was reelected president. I think there's a high probability that Donald Trump will be reelected president if the economy continues to boom the way it has been over the last 9 months.
Okay.
Don, may I
Go ahead, Robert.
say
Yes, go
something?
ahead.
Because I worked for a president, Bill Clinton, who most Republicans said was not fit for office. In fact, the House impeached Bill Clinton. Also, there are many other presidents. Richard Nixon. When Richard Nixon, particularly after Watergate, most of the Republicans in Congress said that Republican Richard Nixon was not fit for office. It is a responsibility of Congress, regardless of your party, to put the nation ahead of party. And if you find a president who is as mean and petty and vindictive and narcissistic and pathologically narcissistic as we have right now in Donald Trump, it seems to me the responsibility of every senior Republican to say, this man is dangerous for this country, he is not fit for office, and I am going to, if not contribute to an impeachment proceeding, at least examine the 25th Amendment.
Well,
Right,
except
Stephen.
Bob, the difference between Bill Clinton and Bill Clinton and Richard Nixon and Donald Trump is that they were both accused of crimes, which are impeachable offenses. What impeachable offense has Donald Trump committed?
Obstruction of justice, abuse of power.
I mean, you disagree with them on policy, but
How many do you want? How many do you want, Steve? I mean, the Emoluments Clause,
Yeah.
Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution. How many impeachable offenses should I talk about? How many alleged, remember, an impeachment is an allegation. An impeachment is an
So, Bob,
inquiry. It's the Senate that really has the trial. All I'm saying is that right now, it seems to me, particularly given that our president on foreign policy, and that's really what we're talking about, is not listening to his Secretary of State. He's not listening to his Defense Secretary. He is basically being a rogue president on something that could affect the entire world. He's making irresponsible statements about North Korea. He's talking about annihilating North Korea. He is escalating the conflict on the basis of no information,
Let him
no
respond,
advice.
Robert.
And
Well,
this
wait a
is
minute.
very
but
dangerous,
the
is it
Secretary
not?
of State and the Department. No, you were a cabinet member yourself. The cabinet member works and should reflect the opinions of the president, not the reverse. I mean,
The
look,
cabinet
Donald
member
Trump
advises.
was elected because of these positions, and he has
Advises the
advisors, and if
president.
they don't agree with them, they should get out. I mean, look, I respect Secretary of State Tillerson, but if he has fundamental disagreements with Donald Trump's position on these foreign policies, then he should get out of that office. But Donald Trump is not guilty of any kind of impeachable offense that I know of. You don't like his positions, Bob, and because you don't like the positions, you think he should be impeached, and that I think is dangerous to our democracy and the people.
Steve, let me be very clear. I think that he has abused his power, and there is an obstruction of justice. There's enough evidence with regard to obstruction
Okay,
of
well,
justice
bring
with
it,
regard
then. Let's bring
him
the case,
firing
then.
James Comey. I mean, we could go through a whole list of things. I'm not saying that he has necessarily committed a crime. We don't know yet, but that is what an impeachment inquiry should get into. The same thing with the 25th Amendment. That is an inquiry into the mental competence of a president, and there is a lot of evidence being accumulated that the mental competence of this president is at least questionable.
Robert, I want to get this in because I think this is very important. You wrote a letter to Secretary Tillerson about calling the president a moron, and it says, in part, the reason your moronic comment about Trump made the headlines is that Trump really is a moron. In the sense you probably meant it, he's impulsive, mercurial, often cruel, and pathologically narcissistic. Some psychologists who have studied his behavior have concluded he's a psychopath. Washington is petty. A sociopath, I should say, excuse me, a sociopath. Washington is petty, but it's not nonsensical. It latches on to gaffes only when they reveal something important. That's a very strong statement. What is so revealing to you about that gaffe?
Well, as the journalist Michael Kinsley said years ago, a gaffe really means that somebody in politics has stated a truth that nobody otherwise wants to admit, but they all believe. And that comment, I mean, that's a silly comment. And I mean, the fact that Rex Tillerson did not deny that he called the president a moron, I think is certainly indicative. But the fact that it made the headlines is
State Department
important.
denied it,
It
but he
made the
didn't
headlines
personally.
because people are in Washington very concerned about the mental state of the president.
Yeah. Stephen, what's your reaction to Robert's letter?
I just heard about that. This is the first I've heard about it. But if it's true, I think it's just a screed against the president. And I don't think it adds to the public debate at all for anyone to call the president a moron or to say that he's somehow mentally unfit for office. I mean, the voters knew what they were getting, Bob, and your girl lost and our guy won. And, then to say, well, gee, he's not really fit to serve the presidency.
Steve,
I mean, the American people wanted a disruptor, somebody who was not a typical Washingtonian. They voted for an outsider who would shake up Washington, and boy, is he doing it. And everywhere I go, Don, I got to tell you, I'm on the road all the time. Now, I'm talking to a lot of the Trump supporters. I know you've had segments about whether Trump is losing his base, but I got to tell you, he's not losing his base. His people say, tell Donald Trump to keep it up. He's doing a great job.
Yeah. That's
Steve, saying that the voters voted a disruptor and are therefore have no right to object and question what is going on right now is like saying the voters voted for Richard Nixon and therefore had no right to hold him accountable for being something that was not just a disruptor, but actually committed high
Richard
crimes.
Nixon was committing a crime.
But I think the
Donald
voters
Trump has not
also,
committed any kind of
I think the
impeachable
voters
crime.
also want someone who is competent, and it is fair game to question whether this president is doing the job as it should be done. So I don't know about calling names or all of
that.
that.
Was the number one issue.
Yeah.
It's not about
the
Don. It's not about
booming right now.
The economy
It's
says nothing about
It's not
fitness.
about calling names. Can
Yes.
we make this clear?
His
There's too much
policies
name
his
calling.
policies are working.
There is too much name calling in Washington. There's too much pettiness. There's too much vindictiveness, and a lot of it, too much of it, is coming from the Oval Office.
Thank you all. Thank you. We'll have you back.
Well, what about
you know.
you just did the name calling yourself, Robert Reich, in your note.
Robert?
I did not. I was quoting
I
Tillerson.
thought you said you didn't like
wait a
name
minute,
calling, and you said-
Steve. I was quoting Rex Tillerson. I was trying to make a very serious point, and that serious point is that beyond what Rex Tillerson did not admit saying, that comment about the president being a moron, was really a deeper concern that a lot of people in Washington and an increasing number of people in the country are now reflecting.
Okay.
And that concern has to do with the mental competence and
voters
also
will have
the
a
I've got to
character
end
of our
this.
president.
I've got to
Vote on
end
that
this.
10
Thank
years
you.
from now.
Thank you both.